in. All right, what is worship? The goal of the game is to prove your devotion to your god. So you can see on the screen right now we have a little cultist right here. For the moment we're playing in single player, but keep in mind that everything that you see you will be able to play it online in co-op up to 4 players. So at the start of the game you will decide which god you want to worship. In this case we worship Anan's guide, who's the apostle of destruction and likes to kill stuff. You will need to prove your devotion to it, so you can see that there's a bar up the statue. Your goal is, at the moment, get that bar to 100. To do so, you will do a bunch of cultist activities, and those cultist activities will grant you devotion points, basically. What are cultist activities? Converting people to your cult, doing rituals, destroying the statues and idols and anything that goes to other faction, defeating the other faction, and making sure that you are as grim as you can. So we can go down.
We'll start by showing you a bit of like the action you can do as a cultist, the controls and everything, and then we'll start exploring more into the world. So first, of course, you can stab yourself and bleed on the ground to draw symbols. And once you have your symbols, you can activate a ritual if your shape is correct. In this case, circle would be my conversion ritual.
Yeah, and basically, right now we are in the exploration phase of the game. The game is divided in 2 phases, exploration and test of fate. We'll get to test of fate afterwards, but during the exploration phase you will have to get stronger as a cult. Yes, prove your devotion to your god, but also get more and more followers into your cult to ask them to do job for you, because as a cultist you don't do anything. You ask people to do stuff for you, like pick up stuff, like attacking the enemies or destroying idols and stuff from the other factions.
All right. We haven't ventured directly into the gameplay loop, but as Alexis said, we'll go into the world and start gathering devotion in this thing we call the exploration phase. You haven't talked what happened once we reach 100 devotion.
So basically, when you get to 100 devotion, your god will ask you to do a test for it, which we call the test of fate, which is basically a flavorful way to talk about a boss fight or a significant challenge that you can ask your players to do. So every cult member will have to gather through the altar and ask the god to do the test of fate and be teleported somewhere else. Basically, the gameplay loop is to do that exploration phase, get stronger and stronger, grow your cult in terms of followers and getting new buildings that's going to give you more upgrades and different type of rituals and upgrades for your followers and your cultists. And once you feel like you're strong enough and you gathered enough devotion, you do the test of fate, defeat the boss, and you go back to another exploration phase, and you go back and forth with those 2 phases until you get to the final test of fate, which is the summoning ritual, in which you summon your god into the world and cause the apocalypse, as a good cultist would do.
Thanks for the rundown. Now that we converted a couple of followers, as you might know, we can order them to do stuff. So of course, you can send them at places and you can order them to do stuff. You can recall them to your position so they can listen back to your orders and they can hit stuff. So now we're in a little church hamlet and there's a statue idol dedicated to their goddess. So we'll destroy that because we don't like it. And our god will reward us with devotion for breaking the statue.
Yeah, so we got 20 devotion points for breaking the statue of another god. The thing to remember is that we are in pre-alpha right now, so every measurable data that you can see, like the amount of devotion that you're going to gain from a specific activity or the amount of damage your followers are doing, whatever enemy health, all that sort of stuff, will most likely change during the Kickstarter alpha also.
Yes, so one thing we'll look into is the map and the environment. Keep in mind
bear with us.
Yeah, bear with us. The visuals are very much work in progress, but they give a good idea of how we distribute and use procedural generation to spawn content into the world to give you stuff to do, plays differently in every of your run. So if we look at the map, you'll see some questionable visual, but with icons that tell you where there's stuff to destroy, where there's enemy, where there's encounters, and all of that good stuff. So we'll start exploring a little bit around and tell you about some other mechanics. Just before you see me doing this in combat, as you know, we can spill blood on the ground, but you can also absorb it back. So if you mess up your shape while drying, or if you need to get back some blood, which is also your health.
Yeah, because of course when you bleed on the ground to draw shapes, you will lose health. And if you don't want to lose health, you can also use your followers as blood bags. So we can draw different shapes. So right now we had a circle for the conversion, but we also have the square for the impel ritual, which would be used to attack enemies.
So we'll just move towards a group of enemy. And I'll grab one of my followers to...
Obviously, Pikmin is an inspiration, so grabbing followers to throw them around is part of the main thing. So in this map specifically, we are in what we call the Untamed Borderlands, in which is a battlefield from a narrative perspective, is a battlefield from two different factions in worship, the Church and the Untamed. And you have to, so you will encounter a bunch of Church-based enemies because they are currently invading the battlefield. The other thing that you might have seen right now is that the priest, the bishop actually, used multiple abilities, but one of them was the mass conversion. So it uses quite a slow attack, which has an obvious area of effect, but once it was activated, the followers that Remy had at his disposal became fanatics from the Church and started attacking us instead. So you'll have to worry about these types of activities and abilities.
What I haven't used in combat is some offensive spell. I'll show you one right now that I'll be able to put to use in next fight. What's neat about spells in general is that the size of the shape that you draw will directly influence the effect of the spell. For some, it can influence the amount of damage it does. For some other, it can impact the area of effect. So like this one, ritual is called Impale. When I activate it, it'll create a AoE damage zone, which will deal more damage the closest it is to the center. And the bigger your shape is, the bigger the AoE.
So the game is a roguelike, so it's randomly generated. The map will be different each time, and all of the upgrades that you'll get will be different each time. So these are the type of flexible encounters that you can find throughout your run, which are scattered throughout the map. This one is obvious. You need to use your blood mechanic to reproduce the shape that's currently being pictured here, and Remy will do the best he can to do so, and we got a significant amount of devotion from that. You can take back your blood afterwards. So these type of encounters will be scattered everywhere, and these are one of the various scopes of encounters that you can find. I think we'll go now see the painter encounter to showcase what's the things we can do with this specifically.
Yeah, we might cross near one or two more.
There's other flexible encounters that we can showcase, yeah.
So you'll see some familiar environment when exploring the area of the game, but every time some of these area will be removed to make place for some more exotic encounters, like this one, terrifying eldritch slug that looks like it has been experimented on by maybe the Coven. So I'll just hit him, see what it does. I won't spoil everything right away during this dev stream. Might want to recall my follower on this.
The best friend of a cultist is the recall function. If your followers are in trouble, the thing that you need to do is to recall them, because they are a bit too dumb to act by themselves. You will need them to command them, and they trust you as a leader. They'll do everything you do, even if it means dying to a weird eldritch creature in random areas.
Oh, and there's this thing that we call the follower transmuter. It's still in early stage, but it'll be used to convert a certain amount of follower into a reward. In this time I got a chest, and some other time an enemy could have spawned or some other things, and I got a relic from it. So I think it's could be a good example of bringing back to base just before the other encounter. I might get some follower because I lost a couple of one. the
So
previous fights.
one way to get devotion to your god is to give them treasures or relics, as we can see right now, which these can be traded for devotion. And not right now in the current state of the game, but one of the plans that we have for the game with the relics is to trade them for what we call blessings, which we will be explaining in 2024 and not right now. Just to give you a little teaser about it. Alright, so we'll get back to the base. The back and forth with the base is part of the gameplay loop. You will, if you find catalysts to gain new buildings, you will have to come back to your base to get stronger and stronger. Same things with the relic. If you put it into, you give it to your god, it will grant you a significant amount of devotion. And now the god is ready to test you. But are we ready to do the test of fate? I'm not quite sure yet. I think we need more upgrades for our cult, and we need more followers. So we'll go back into exploration to make sure that we feel like we're strong enough. And that's part of the design philosophy that we have with worship in general, is to make sure that you have kind of a risk management, or making sure your decision to take in between how are you ready to do a specific challenge, and are you ready to lose followers or you lose health or any resources that you have to potentially get stronger from that. So now, do we feel like we have enough followers to go to the boss, or should we risk to do more challenges throughout the exploration phase to get new catalyst or more followers? That's it.
So we'll do a little bit more by showing you the painter event. So you've seen some more flexible encounter along the way, but some bigger part of the map will be replaced by like bigger encounters with like narrative context and everything. So let's show you this one. So this is the church painter, and as you see, he may be stumped for some inspiration for his next piece of art. And for these gameplay moment that we call event encounter, there will be multiple ways to solve them and to get a reward from it. So as you can see, the painter has two Inquisitor guard that doesn't attack you when you get close. If I so desire, I could potentially attack them and defeat them and scare the painter into giving me some reward. But
pretty sure our god would be pleased with that, but we are trying to showcase different aspects of the game, so we'll try to do something else instead.
So there's pieces of the chapel scattered around that maybe the Untamed broke everything, and we will try to place them back into place and see what the painter thinks, and if it can bring him some inspiration, and we'll maybe get some ways to get stronger along the way.
Basically, in those events, or these module encounters that we call from a developer perspective, these are, the scope of this is that we have really a zone that's dedicated for this specifically. So the hints and the puzzle pieces that you will need to find are scattered through this, and one way to tell if you're going too far away for this encounter specifically is if you hear the music change, because we can highlight right now that Leon's work, our music composer, did an amazing job to create a specific ambience for this part of the game. But as soon as we leave the painter encounter area, we will go back to the exploration music that you maybe noticed before.
Well, now that we've placed everything into place, the painter has something to tell, so we'll see what he has in mind.
And he gave us a catalyst.
So these things are basically chrysalis of creature from the Unseen Depth, which the gods come from, and you can basically bring them to your base to summon monuments that will give you new powers. The color and the visual and the shape of the crystal will basically indicate the tier of the catalyst and its type, which matters for the type of upgrade you can get from those buildings. We'll go back to base, bang those, and then we'll see if we're ready for the test of fate.
Is there another flexible encounter that would not be too far away that we could do? I don't think so, right?
They're a little bit far. I might cheat a little bit and spawn myself another catalyst to unlock new ritual to give you an idea of how it's done in the game. But for now, we'll just go ahead and bang these. So these are your building sockets. You will earn more in your run by completing Test of Fate, but you start with a certain number and you can bang the catalyst into them, summon buildings and get new powers.
So now we are able to move faster now that we add that specific monument. And you can see that if your shape is a little bit too rough or too small, it might not be good enough to activate the ritual. And something that we're currently working on is giving feedback to the players if the ritual is going to be a success or not before activating, because it can be devastating to be wrong with your shape. If you draw something that looks nothing like a shape, it will not help you overcome the challenges.
So now you'll have to ignore what I'll do because I'll open the
close your eyes for like 10 seconds
to spawn myself a catalyst to earn a new ritual.
Yeah, all right, easy. As soon as we saw this, there's screenshots, of course. We saw you, Wheat.
So each building types and each tier of building has a different visual for those, so I hope you'll have fun discovering what they'll look like. And we'll now show you the ritual loadout menu, which is where you can consult the ritual you have available and bind them to shapes. So there's two different types of ritual in the game. There's the alterable rituals and sealed rituals. The alterable rituals are meant to be easier to use in combat with the basic shapes. So how it works is you can bind those to any available basic shape. So as you saw, the conversion was binded to circle, impale to square. If I so desire, I could have put conversion to triangle, and one of my new spell like Ghastly Claw into circle if I want it to be easier to cast. And let's say Blood Combustion to diamond.
We'll showcase you the different rituals that we just unlocked. There's also the seal ritual, if you want to go with this before.
The seal ritual are basically the more complex, cooler shape to draw, but because they are more complex, they are a little bit harder to draw in combat situation. So these will be reserved for more powerful ritual or ritual that are meant to be used outside of combat. So expect those to be ritual that will have a more powerful effect and that will be rewarding to draw or even team up with your friends to draw together.
Currently, the seal ritual that we have is the revive one. Keep in mind the game is an online multiplayer game, so you can. We're not exactly sure how, like, if we want to keep it in the final game, but so far it's to make sure that if your teammates are dying during your runs, you can maybe revive them with the specific rituals.
So, just talking about the Ghastly Claw, there's some different ritual than the Impale, which is instantaneous once you activate the shape. Some other ritual that we call active effect ritual gives you instead another way to unleash its power once you have activated the shape. So in this case, I can send a projectile to damage my enemies from afar, or I even have the blood combustion, which enables me to light up blood on the ground into fire, which can damage my enemy. So I can like prepare a firewall and bait my enemy into going into it, which is fun.
Keep in mind also that, and this happens with the blood combustion specifically, when the input that you use to activate, like to use one of these active effect rituals, are directly linked with the same input that you use for activate rituals. So what happens more often than not is that you have the blood combustion ready and you try to convert followers with a circle, and then you just create a fire circle instead, and you don't get your followers. So you'll have to make a decision in, like, you have to commit to the active effect rituals that you have until you use all of its charges. And some rituals may have different number of charges depending on the how big the ritual was, let's say. So these are the types of parameters that we'll work with to give you player input on how you use the rituals in combat and outside of combat.
Yes, so just before heading into the test of fate.
You haven't shown the other...
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what
okay,
I was going
cool.
to. So these are the menus that will be useful during for your cult during your run. There will be a tab for the map that for now is what you saw, but for the cult base and your upgrade, you have this one little menu that will specify which part of the cult base you have unlocked, which building you have currently, and you can read more about the upgrades you have there. Which type and tiers of catalyst it was, and eventually blessings and some other mechanic that we're not ready to talk about yet, like the utility buildings. So
You said it.
Just a little tease. So as you saw last time, we got 100 devotion. Now the altar is a lot more ominous because my god is ready to send me on my test of fate. So, did I do everything? Can I go?
I think so. Yeah, I think we can do it.
Yeah.
Alright, so if you've been following us in the past year, specifically in Kickstarter updates, we've been teasing a specific boss for a couple of months now. So we decided that today we wanted to showcase to you what's that boss actually, and give you a little tease on what's going to happen with this specific NPC.
Yeah, and just before we go into it, I just want to shout out all of the music you've heard during the exploration phase and that you can hear now during the test of fate. So of course Leon Monette has been working on new music that you might have heard for the Untamed Borderland during the exploration, and there is also there will be music specifically for different contexts of the game, so I hope you'll look forward to hearing new stuff when you'll have the game into your hands.
And that will be all for today. To see more about the boss, you will have to wait for the Kickstarter alpha.